Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. As per usual, a big thank you to everybody that watched last week's episode of the show, liked, commented, all that kind of stuff. Very, very much appreciated. Had a lovely email from Patrick from Lockleigh, thanking me for doing the episode, said he was going to share it with the rest of the team, and no, I've not heard anything else, so one assumes that they were all happy with that review, so yeah, all's good. So, on to this week's episode of the show. As you can see from the title page, it's a new independent bottling company. I always like new independent bottling companies. I like it when the established order is slightly subverted. Oh, no, I'm probably getting carried away a bit there. But no, I like it when new faces come onto the scene. They're kind of keen to send samples and obviously get their stuff reviewed and all that kind of stuff. And I've said sort of on numerous occasions, it's not rocket science starting off an independent bottling company. All it is sort of lots of money and lots of contacts, and that's pretty much about it, really. So today's independent bottling company is called Whisky Craft, and was being put together by a chap called Sonny Charles. Now, they kindly sent me this kind of like brochure thing that they've produced, the marketing thing, and it's all very nice. And there's a picture of him sat in a sort of a wing-back armchair with a dram, and as these things have a tendency to do, and my God, he looks like he's about 18, and it said, oh, he's been involved in the industry for decades. And I'm thinking, when did he start? When he was 8? I mean, you know, talk about young. I mean, I don't. I think it's me. I'm getting older, obviously. I'm archaic. I can't even talk. I'm that old. Arcane is what I am these days, and everybody looks a damn sight younger than me. So he probably isn't. He's probably in his 50s, and but as he said, uses good moisturiser. Don't we all? On the sort of serious stuff these days. Anyway, so look. So Sonny he seems like a nice guy. I mean, I think if he was born in London, in the East End of London, he'd be sort of labelled as a bit of a geezer, you know what I mean? No, I'm not going to carry on doing accents, you know me and accents. Anyway, it's a bit of a restless soul, it would appear. It's very much what's that horrible entrepreneur? Oh God, I hate that word. I mean, I really do. And so he's been into stuff. He's been doing stuff for years. So he kind of started off with at school and took part in a young enterprise competition and came up with this idea of a website which allowed students to sell past exam papers to juniors called Pursuit. Apparently didn't make any money out of that, so then decided he was going to go to university and learn to become a doctor. 2 or 3 years down the line, he decided no, that was not for him. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I've come across numerous people that have kind of started off, you know, down that kind of avenue of trying to become a doctor, and then just going, no, I can't. It's not me. And the thing is, it's kind of, I suppose, a bit like, you know, I remember when I was, you know, leaving school, I had no idea what I was going to do, and obviously what I'm doing now is well removed from what I kind of first started off doing. I mean, I went to college and learned how to become a chef, but and got into wines there, I suppose, so it's kind of symbiotic, I guess. Anyway, coming back to Sonny, his next idea apparently was to make t-shirts to sell at clubs and stuff like that, which apparently he did, but ended up making no money. And there is no money to be made in t-shirt printing, because I should know, I did have a t-shirt printing business. Probably didn't know that, did you? Many years ago, back when I was in my 20s, I had a t-shirt printing business with a partner, and one of our main, we used to do sort of like one-offs for people and kind of stuff like that, and one of my main customers was a stall on Norwich Marketplace, and I used to do knockoff Hard Rock Cafe t-shirts for him. You know, Hard Rock Cafe Norwich. I mean, there was no Norwich Hard Rock Cafe, so it was completely bogus, and which was all fun and fine until he wanted some ones doing on black. He wanted white and purple on black. Now the problem is that we weren't set up to do kind of printing on black t-shirts, because you had to use a chemical based type of ink called plastisol. God, I don't remember that. Where did that come from? And we were currently using water-based stuff because it was a lot cleaner. You didn't have to use chemicals, all that kind of stuff. But you could only really use it on white t-shirts. Anyway, so what we did was we got some white plastisol to basically do the t-shirts and an overprint, which worked actually quite well. But the trouble was that this stuff was kind of drying in the screens really quickly. So we did some spoke to the sort of the company, got a product called a retarder, which basically stopped it drying so quick. Only trouble was it stopped it drying to the extent that when you washed the bloody t-shirt, the print just came away, you know. And we'd done an absolute bucket load for the stall, and that was it. That was all the profit gone, and it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So ended up jacking that one in. Anyway, coming back to Sonny, I keep being distracted here. His next grand scheme was tipple box, which was, as it says, a box of cocktail ingredients. So he was doing this while the gin craze was in sort of full flow, and so basically it was a case of, you know, you didn't need to buy anything, and he would send you the box with all the ingredients you need to make your cocktails with. Obviously worked until up about 2020, according to what he told me, and then I guess kind of coincided with sort of like, you know, the drop off in the gin market, and he decided to move on to Glenanmore, which is where he another independent bottling company where he obviously knew me, because I used to deal with Glenanmore for a little while. He was originally online business manager for 3 years, and then commercial director for the last 2, and then decided, well, you know what, I can do this myself. And he has indeed done so, and is on now the second batch of his releases, and I've obviously got samples of the first couple of batches. One quick thing I will say about the labels, I think, are quite nice. So apparently been painted by a Scottish artist called, now I'm probably going to murder her name here, as you know I am pretty hopeless with foreign names, Alida Mackay. Mackay, good old Scottish whisky name, that one. And apparently she was lives in the same village as the guy that does all his packaging, a chap called Ed Bell. So yeah, they look really, really cool. I like the packaging, I like the labelling, well, of course, you know, as you well know, all of that is absolutely secondary to the juice in the bottle, as they say, and that's what we're going to take a look at and see what casks Sonny has been getting his hands on, because at the moment, as you well know, it's a bit of a difficult one to pick up interesting casks at the moment, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions. So anyway, that's enough waffling. That's getting a little bit dry, so I'm going to introduce the lineup and taste what's going on. Right, okay, so we're going to kick off with, I think this is from batch number 2, or outrun number 2, or whatever you want to call it. This is a 20-year-old Auchentoshan. Second fill bourbon hogshead, number 851. It doesn't supply distilling dates, but obviously it was bottled this year and bottled at 55.3%. Next bottling, I think, was one of the first releases, I think. This is a 12-year-old Mortlach. It's bottled at 57.7%. A bourbon octave, cask number 755. Don't know whether it's spent its entire life in the octave or whether it's an octave finish. I must admit it's not something I thought about asking, to be honest with you. Just one of those things. Anyway, number 3, I think, is again from the first batch, I think. Anyway, this is a 36-year-old Jura. So bourbon octave, I believe, cask number 900-869, bottled at 48%. Again, I don't know if if this was an octave finish, or whether this has spent the entire 36 years in an octave. I find that one hard to believe. I think if it was 36 years in an octave, there'd probably be about that much left at the bottom of the cask, I think. So one assumes that that's probably an octave finish, which then does make you wonder why you would shove it in a bourbon octave. You know, possible lack of oak character to start off with, one thinks. But anyway, we'll reserve judgment until we get there. You know what I think about Jura. On to the next bottling, which is a 20-year-old Aberfeldy, bottled at 52.9%, an Oloroso octave. One assumes again an Oloroso octave finish, so it does make you want to ask the question why. So cask number 11128. I mean, it could be just that, you know, just felt like doing it at the end of the day. I mean, I could be, you know, I am a little bit cynical. I have been around this industry for probably far too long, which does make one a bit cynical to start off with. I can tell you, I know what happens, you know. Anyway, again, reserve judgment until I actually taste it. Penultimate bottling is it's called Untamed Islay, or an unnamed or secret Islay, if you like. It's an 8-year-old, again sherry octave. One assumes possibly a finish, or it could actually be, you know, 8 years and an octave. That's not unusual. Cask number 3079, again bottled this year at 57.3%. And final bottling is a good old Caol Ila. You've got to have a Caol Ila in your range. I mean, make enough of it, so it's not hard to get hold of. So this is a 9-year-old Caol Ila, a bourbon hoggy. Oh, good. So, you know, if it's a bourbon hoggy from a Caol Ila, it's not going to have an awful lot of oak character, but, you know, always nice to sort of, you know, it's going to have plenty, hopefully, plenty of distillery character. So this is cask number 303484, bottled at 58.2%. So, interesting selection of casks, I think. Time to start off with a little bit of Auchentoshan.
Oh, please come back. I cannot breathe.
Right, okay, so 20-year-old Auchentoshan. Let's see what the nose gives us on this end, shall we? Right, smells quite old. It has that sort of classic old, you know, Auchentoshan-y character, you know, mature honey, Turkish delight, a little bit of citrus, toffee maybe. The alcohol is giving it a nice freshness. It's not mega complex. I mean, I have, you know, Auchentoshan can be relatively straightforward, and this is relatively straightforward. I mean, but what it's giving you is kind of quite classic Auchentoshan at the end of the day. Sure, that's right. Oh, it's got a grippy end. Said the bishop. Yeah, so it's kind of, again, classic kind of mature Auchentoshan on the palate. It's got that sort of mature honey, Turkish delight, rose petal, bit of citrus, very masked. The alcohol is very, very intense. Mouth-watering finish, obviously the alcohol. A little bit of white fruit on the finish. Again, not a huge amount of oak, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of cream. Not the world's most complex Auchentoshan, but it's certainly a pleasant Auchentoshan. Let's see what a little drop of water does to it. Right, yeah, the nose has kind of become quite neutral now. I'm not getting an awful lot of character at all now. There's some sort of dried barley, there's a little bit of pepper, but it really has kind of, it's not sort of done it any real favours, to be fair. Sort of pass on. Again, the palate is very much the same. It's a bit too old, and I think that's the problem with this. I think when you nose it neat, it seems to be in pretty good shape, to be honest with you. But when you put a little drop of water with it, that kind of like, you know, it all kind of, I wouldn't say falls apart, but it then starts showing up the limitations of Auchentoshan. And, you know, I mean, Auchentoshan can age, but 20 is really pushing Auchentoshan a little bit. And it's quite alcoholic, which always kind of starts to sort of ring alarm bells, certainly when I've got a whiskey that's quite old but quite high in alcohol. This often has a tendency to happen. You dilute it and it does kind of, sometimes it completely falls apart. I don't think this has fallen apart completely, but I do think it's a little bit too old. Okay, so let's move on to the 12-year-old Mortlach. Let's see what the nose gives us on this end, shall we? That's a nice nose. It's got a nice kind of youthfulness to it, but it's not overly youthful. It's got some gristiness, some quite heavy, dense oils, honey, barley, vanilla, quite grippy. The tannins are very noticeable, but then it was an octave, and it's got that kind of raw oak kind of smell. You can almost kind of smell. It's like putting your face up against a stave. You can really smell that oak, but it's not OTT. Mortlach has got a lovely broad kind of character. It can withstand some hammering by oak, and this is really quite nice. I like this nose. I think this is quite classically Mortlach, really. Maybe, you know, a little bit heavy on the oak, but yeah, pretty good. Let's see what that's like. Again, intense, gristy, barleyed, a little bit of honey. Not as much oak as you would expect from the octave, although it does come through on the mid palate. It's very drying. The alcohol and the tannins are really drying that finish, but it's the weight of the spirit carries on. It's got plenty of guts to kind of withstand all of that, and it's got a really pleasant sort of oily barley and apricot kind of finish. I really like that. I think that's a very, very good cask. Let's see what a little drop of water does to it. Okay, so obviously it's lost a little intensity. Knocking down the alcohol will do that, but it's made it really nice and juicy and citric. I'm getting tangerine and lemon characters coming out. It's still got a nice weight to it. Still got plenty of barley. Yeah, that's worked really, really well. I like that. Let's see what that's like. Nice, juicy, mouth-filling, long, lovely intensity. Softer now. You know, the alcohol is not sort of masking the finish at all. Lovely barleyed finish. A little bit of toasted oak on the finish. Still got quite a bit of tannin, but the tannins are kind of softened and they're kind of merged in with the sort of like the Mortlach oiliness. That was really good. I thought that was an excellent cask. Really enjoyed that. Right, okay, so let's move on to the 36-year-old Jura. Let's see what nose gives us on this thing, shall we? Actually, that's a rather nice Jura, has to be said. Oh my God, that's two. I mean, there was the who did the other Jura? Geyer and Gimble, House of Geyer and Gimble, and that was actually a 17. Was it 14? Something like that. It wasn't an old Jura. I mean, we know that Jura made great whiskey, great spirit back in the day, and if this is a finish, it's not overly oaked. It has to be said. It's got that lovely kind of aromatic summer fruits. I know we're not in summer anymore. Some salt, vanilla, a little bit of grippy tannin, but not sort of overly grippy. Touch of sawdust. It's got some lovely age. I can see why it was finished in an octave. It's just pushed the oak character up a little bit, but it's been done really well, actually. There's a little bit of rose oil, butter. Oh, that is a lovely old Jura, and like I said, I keep saying it, back in the day, back in the sort of like, you know, the before sort of Jura became overly popular, the spirit was pretty good. You know, it's just been ruined of late, to be honest with you. Oh, that's a lovely house. That really is lovely. Really well done. Let's see what the palate's like. That's wonderfully mature. Lots and lots of sawdusty oak. To be honest with you, I don't think it really needed being finished in an octave. I think it feels like it had plenty of oak there. The octave really is only kind of added tannin, So you could argue it's kind of added a little bit of structure. Maybe it didn't quite have the structure there originally. It's got some lovely apricot, a little bit of salt, not a great deal, touch of rose petal. Again, vanilla, a little bit of spice, it lingers. It's got that lovely sawdusty, mature character, which really it kind of hits you right from the word go, and then it kind of dissipates out, and you get all this lovely honey and sort of mature fruit and that kind of thing. But it's got a lovely vibrancy still. It's retained some of the citric character. It's got a lovely kind of vibrant finish to it as well. That is a lovely Jura, and you don't hear me saying that very often. It's bloody expensive, as of yet. It's 36-year-old Jura, so it's what, 300 and whatever it is. But oh, if you've got the pennies for that, that is superb.
Put a scroll on me, put a scroll on my brain.
Right, okay, so let's move on to the 20-year-old Aberfeldy. Let's see what the nose goes on this end, shall we? Sherry. Sherry, sherry, and more sherry. Dense, tannic, grippy, raisinated fruit, black grape. Distillery character? Nope. Barley character? Nope. No, that's been completely hammered by the octave. I mean, shame. I mean, old Aberfeldy is absolutely gorgeous. I love old Aberfeldy. I love Aberfeldy, generally speaking, although I find it quite disappointing at times, to be honest with you. Certainly independent bottlings don't ever seem to be quite as good as the distillery releases. Okay, as an indie, yes, I'd say you need a sherry monster, but I wouldn't have, not a 20-year-old Aberfeldy. I mean, that's just kind of, I don't want to say a waste of, well, it is. I'll be honest, it's a waste of an old Aberfeldy, isn't it, at the end of the day? Yeah, you just basically just shoved it into a sherry octave and just trampled any sort of Aberfeldy character whatsoever. If you were going to do it, why not do it with something a bit younger, you know? But anyway, I'm just my personal opinion. You may well think differently. Let's see what the pass out. Tannic, coffeed, toffee, raisinated fruit. There's no spirit character there whatsoever. It could be anything. It could be any distillery. It could be any age. It's just all sherry, and that's just, to me, a real shame. Let's put a little drop of water with it and see if that actually brings out some spirit character. There's a bit, possibly. I mean, it's kind of lightened the sherry, so there's a sort of a feeling of kind of spirit. Maybe there's a little bit of sawdust, possibly, but it's still pretty much sherry. So pass on. It's more citric now. There's no character from the spirit. It's still very much in the sherry mould. The sherry is less intense. It's less tannic. It's softer. Like I said, there's a little bit more citrus. There's a little bit more orange and tangerine and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's just not really for me. You know, you well know what I think of intense sherry monsters, and that one just doesn't really float my boat at all. Right, okay, so let's move on to the Untamed or Unnamed Islay. Let's see what the nose gives us on this one, shall we? Peat and Sherry. Lovely couple, aren't they? Know them really well. Yeah, so it's quite silky. It's quite raisinated. It's kind of got that slight sort of almost PXy treacly note kind of happening. Medicinal peat, iodine, burnt wood, salt, peat, coffee. What's not to like? I mean, you know, it's and it retails for, is it less than 50 quid? I can't remember. I think it's going to retail for less than 50 quid. Yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. It's peated, probably Caol Ila. It certainly doesn't come across like any of the others. It's certainly less than 50 quid. It's not going to be Lagavulin, is it? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I still don't understand why distilleries like Caol Ila and Bunnahabhain, who do sell an awful lot of casks to the independents, do this kind of thing. Is it not serendipity? What's the word? Are they? No, can't remember. Think of the name. Are they doing it just to basically sell some cheap casks at the end of the day? Do they need to? I don't know. You wouldn't have thought so. It's Diageo, for God's sake. You know, they try and screw everybody, don't they? For a few pence. You know. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's see what. Just like the nose, peat and sherry, racinated fruit, dry peat, dusty peat, little medicinal note, not a great deal of medicinal, some iodine, a little bit of tannin, it grips quite nicely. It's got a softness. It's what, 57%? You wouldn't have thought that. That's a dangerous whiskey. Yeah, I mean, I've got no problem with that. It's not the world's most complex of whiskies, it has to be said, but you know, it delivers quite pleasantly, I guess. Okay, little less. It's almost a sulphur note. It's kind of verging. It's kind of. Yeah, when I tasted this, I was really in two minds about this. I really was, because. And I think it's just my nose. I know I pick up sulphur really, really easily. And I don't think it really was sulphured, but there is that kind of slight sulphuriness. It's kind of morphing into a meatiness, I suppose, on the nose. And I guess a lot of people are probably not going to pick up on it, and they're not going to notice it, that it will feel a bit like a meatiness. Oh God, the dilemmas of tasting whiskey, it has to be said. You wouldn't believe how bad it is sometimes. You really have to wrestle with your conscience sometimes. I'll taste it. Again, we're in meaty territory. It's got a nice chewiness to it. It's very soft now. The sherry is less in your face. Personally, I would drink it neat just to avoid that sort of any suggestion of sulphur whatsoever. I mean, because neat is fine, absolutely fine, no problem with that whatsoever. Lovely kind of peat and sherry. Like I say, I mean, you know, I go on about sort of the Aberfeldy being blasted with peat. At least with sherry. At least sort of like your peated malts, kind of the peat kind of hangs around, and all right, you know, there's not a lot of distillery character, there's not a lot of Caol Ila coming through there, it has to be said, but the peat is still there, so it kind of ticks boxes for a lot of customers, should we say. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with that one. Right, okay, so on to the final whiskey of the afternoon. This is the 9-year-old Caol Ila. Actual Caol Ila in a bourbon hogshead. Let's see what the nose gives us. Oh, that's a bit young, that's a bit raw. Quite stringent, peppery. There's some spirit sulphur there as well, it has to be said. It's edgy, it's herbal. There's a little bit of garden fruit. It's kind of got a little bit of a nod to old school Caol Ila. But it's really young. I mean, this is too young, to be frank. Even though, you know, you can bottle Caol Ila young, and yes, you've got the intensity, you've got the peatiness. It's just sort of 80 odd quid. I'm kind of going, you know, that. Can I really sort of, would I sell that to you at 80 quid? And based on the nose, I couldn't do it. Let's sort the pass on. Right, we're definitely in modern Caol Ila territory now. It's got that oiliness, lots of capsicum. It's got that kind of, almost kind of stoisha kind of character, but not too much. It's got that green pepper, green peat, dry peat, a little bit of iodine. Quite salty. Love the saltiness of it. It's still a little on the young side, not quite so raw as the nose kind of is hinting at. Slightly medicinal on the finish. Better palate, but still I'm kind of asking questions about why this is 80 odd quid. And I know a lot of customers would go, why am I being asked to pay 80 quid for a 9-year-old Caol Ila? And I just don't get it at all. You know, Caol Ila is just, it's not a sort of, it produces an awful lot of spirit, right? And you can pick up Caol Ila for quite a relatively inexpensive amount of money, and yet then you can't have bottlings that are really expensive, and it doesn't really make any sense. But then sometimes that's kind of products. Sometimes it's just like, what can you get for it? But anyway, it's not quite got the sulphury note now. It's a lot fresher, fleshier, fruitier, fuller, a little bit more vanilla. It's Caol Ila. You don't expect kind of cask character. They don't use first fill casks, well, pretty much hardly. It's all about the spirit. I mean, so just great. I mean, lots and lots of spirit character. Getting a little bit exuberant there. Yeah, let's see what that's like. That's filled out really nicely. It's nice and fleshy now, fuller, a little bit more oak, a bit more vanilla, less peat, it has to be said, but it's there. It's an echo now. Or maybe no, it's a bit more of an echo. It's got a nice kind of astringent, green peppery kind of note coming through on the finish. Water, I think it kind of helps that. I mean, and this is one of the wonderful thing about cask strength whiskies is that sometimes they're great straight out the cask. Sometimes they need a little water just to kind of like, tame the alcohol a bit and sort of, bring out some more nuanced characters, and that works a lot better. It has to be said once you dilute it a little bit, but I still think 80 odd quid is just asking a little bit too much for that. So yeah.
You turn around and you're so
Right, okay, so let's sum today's episode of the show. Well, firstly, a big thank you to Sonny for the samples for today's episode of the show. I hope you all think it's been a fair appraisal. As I say, you send me samples and you will get an honest opinion. And it's my opinion at the end of the day. You can agree with it and disagree with it. All you like. I mean, I've got no issue with that, but like I said, you send me samples, you want me to review them, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'll tell you what I think. Overall, I like to think Sonny's on a really good path. There's some interesting stuff that he's bottled. There's some stuff that I personally wouldn't have chosen. The Auchentoshan is one of them. I think it was just a little bit too old. And it just, it's I forget what that would retail for, but it's a premium because it's it's a fairly old whiskey, but it's just a bit too old for Auchentoshan and just didn't quite, creaked a little bit, certainly when you put a little bit of water with it. Mortlach I thought was exceptional. I thought that was really good, a very classic, really good Mortlach at the end of the day. Jura. I mean, why am I suddenly discovering some bloody great old Juras? I mean, I thought this was kind of stuff that had been consigned to the past, but they're suddenly popping up again. It's a bit of a Jura renaissance. Maybe this will filter through to the distillery bottlings. I think that's probably unlikely, but one could hope. The Aberfeldy, too sherried, and I think I sort of like made my opinions quite clear on that one. As you know, it's not my cup of tea. Sherry, judicious, that's what you want, not sort of like to mask everything. But then you've got the sort of the Unnamed Islay, and it's all sherry and peat, and it's kind of like I'm almost being a bit hypocritical by saying I actually quite like it. Well, yeah, I can see its place, shall we say, more than I really like it. If I was going to sort of move over to the dark side and join that one for a little bit, I would probably go for something like that. Absolutely fine, no problem with that. And the Caol Ila, like I said, I think the Caol Ila was just too expensive for what it is. It was just sort of like just a little bit too raw. Wasn't quite ready. Could have done with another couple of years. I would have probably left that personally until it was maybe 12. Just to get rid of that element of sulphur. It was spirit sulphur, not cask sulphur, and I think it just needed a little bit more time. And that's the wonderful thing about whiskey, is that you can't just basically, it's not an A plus B equals C kind of thing. It's, you have to kind of monitor these things and just kind of use your judgment. And well, like I said, overall I think sort of what Whisky Craft are doing is really good, and I would like to think that you would look up some of the bottlings. There's a couple that I will be putting on the shelf at a certain retailer, so you're more than welcome to purchase them from said retailer. Anyway, that's this week's episode of the show in the bag. Obviously it's going to be Halloween next week. Well, not quite Halloween, but you know what I mean. There'll be the nearest weekend to Halloween, so I'm going to have to do something particularly spooky, I would imagine. So until then, good dramming and good afternoon.
Calling me, he was all for you. How could I try to save your son?